In this video, I will tell you about applying the dimensional constraints on the geometry. So in the previous video, we learned about applying these geometry constraints. Now we'll add some dimensional constraints. Now in this case, I'll start with this dimensional panel, and here on the dimensional panel, when you expand this flyout, you'll see some constraints which are quite similar to the dimensions which we have already seen. So we have the linear, horizontal, vertical, all of these constraints. We also have the aligned, the radius, diameter, angle. So all of these constraints can be applied on the geometry. So I'll start with the linear constraint. So let's go to this linear and now move close to this end of the horizontal line. So in this case, you can see the highlighted marker. Let's click. Now let's click on the second point which is close to the vertex, and here we have it. The linear constraint is now applied, and as you can see that it has a identifier D1 which is for distance 1 obviously, and we have this constraint applied. Also the log sign indicates that it is now restricted to this length. If you want to apply a new constraint on this side, so you can do that as well. So I'll go to this vertical option, and now I'll click close to this end of the vertical line. So make sure that you are clicking only on the vertical line, not on this horizontal line, because we want to apply it on this one. And also make sure that you are not clicking anywhere close to this center point, because in that case another marker will be highlighted. So now I'll click close to this point, and I'll click close to this point, and I'll place the constraint here. So we have the horizontal and the vertical constraints now applied. In order to apply any aligned constraint, you can select this aligned option. Also we have this option here, radius. So let's select the radius constraint and let's apply it on this arc. So I'll click here and I'll apply this radius constraint just like this. Now let's repeat the process of this radius constraint and let's apply it on this circle. So I'll click on this and let's place it somewhere over here, and we have this radius also applied here. Now in all of these cases, all of these are the constraints, and you can see that they are quite different from the dimensions which you apply. Now if you want to change their shape and if you want to use dimension type of constraints, then you can change that from this flyout. So expand the dimensional panel, and here you will see this annotational constraint mode. So right now dynamic constraint mode is selected, that's why we are seeing this dynamic constraint. So I'll change it to annotational constraint. And now let's remove some of these. So I'll select this radius, I'll remove it, and also remove this vertical one. Now I'll once again apply it. So I'll go to radius and click on this circle, and now here instead of this kind of dynamic constraint, you'll be able to see the constraint which is similar to the dimension style. Although this is still a constraint, but the dimension style will be taken up in this case. Also if you want to apply it here, let's select the vertical, let's apply the vertical constraint, and once again it's taking the properties of the dimension style, but still as I mentioned it's a constraint. In this case also, if you want to hide the constraints, you can simply select hide all for all of these dimensional constraints, and if you want to reveal them back, you can click on show all. But as you can see that we have these as annotations, or the dimensions, they won't be hidden. In order to have a uniform distribution of constraints, I'll simply remove them and I'll apply the dynamic constraints instead. So I'll select the dynamic constraint mode, and I'll once again apply the constraints on these geometries. So here we have the radius constraint applied, and also we have here the vertical constraint. So let's apply it here, and we have it now. So now when you hide the geometries, the complete constraint, the dimensional constraints will be hidden. Also when you click on show all, they will be revealed back, and if you want to hide or show them selectively, you can select show hide, select the geometries, now press enter and select hide, and the respective constraint will be hidden. To bring it back, click on show all. So that was all about the dimensional constraints in AutoCAD.